drummers, welcome to Tim Conley Drums. Out in my backyard today, and I've been inspired by a YouTuber, a guitar player from Nashville, who's talking about the Nashville music scene, the LA music scene, his experiences as a musician. Brad, Bad Brad, or Bad Bart. I think it's Bad Brad. Yeah, it's Bad Brad. Anyways, he's inspired me to talk a little bit about my experiences in the music scene and the Toronto scene, and I specifically want to talk about something that he talked about, which is the money. How much do gigs pay? Well, it varies, but you can be a high-level musician playing in famous bands. If you're a hired gun and you're just there and you're not really part of the band, you're the hired gun. And there's a documentary about being a hired gun on Netflix right now. I highly recommend that you watch. It's also on YouTube as well. Very, very interesting for those of you who have never done anything like that, or you're not a musician and you just have an interest in it, but you don't know anything about it. That's a good documentary. Also, what I'm going to tell you today is going to open some eyes. So you could be a Nashville musician, top of your game, and you get hired to go out with some big country act. You're making $300 to $500 a night, and that's on the good end. In the Toronto scene, you could go out on the road and you'd be making even less than that as a Canadian musician. So there's just not a lot of money involved in the whole scene as a whole. Now, the Nashville scene is one of the biggest music scenes in the world. Probably the biggest scene next to California in the US, and Toronto's the biggest music scene in Canada. But unfortunately, respect for musicians, regard for paying them on a high level, respect for understanding how much effort has been put into developing your skills to such a high level, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Can you imagine being someone who's educated, trained, spent hours and hours, your 10,000 hours doing your field, whatever it is, engineering, doctor, lawyer, whatever it is, and then you show up on the job and they're only going to pay you pittance, very little, very little. After all that work and effort and schooling, is anybody going to really want to do it? In music, we've been driven by passion. We've been driven by the desire to get out and play music. The problem is that there's no respect by club owners. There's no respect by people in general for musicians as a viable career. And I'll give you a perfect example. Where I live, where I went to music school, Mohawk College, and also McMaster University here in Hamilton where I live, both of them are shutting down their music program, and it's all about money. The school's not making any money off of people in the music program. So what do they do with the arts? The arts are always the first to go. That's the reality. So it's a sad state of affairs to be a musician in 2024 anywhere. If you can't make a living in Nashville, or you make a living but you're living in a 750 square foot apartment that costs $1,750. That's the average cost of an apartment in Nashville. Now, you want to work as a musician in Toronto, the average cost of an apartment is $2,500 to $2,700. Who the hell can afford that working as a musician, making $300 a night? And you're supposed to be like, oh, well, I'm going to take the fact that I played with so-and-so and I'm going to use that and that's going to make me more money. Maybe, but highly unlikely. You're not going to make any more money at all. So This whole rant, it's not really a rant. I'm just informing you. I don't want to call it a rant. It's an information. This is why I don't play any more gigs. It's a waste of time. Let me explain to you how a gig comes about, the whole process. This is going to take some time here. So, you've got someone that has to be out there to form the band. I formed bands in the past. I was a leader of a band for about 7 years. So what I did was I advertised various different places to audition, and I had to book the audition place at my cost, and I had various musicians come out for bass, vocals, guitar, whatever the instrument was. And basically, I gave them a song list of what we're going to do, and they had to learn those 5 songs. They come out, it's all on my dime. They don't have to pay anything because they're auditioning. And then after, you go through this process, this might not happen once either. You might have musicians come out to audition and they didn't make the cut. So you've got to do this sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5 times. It all depends. Sometimes you give up and you just say, I can't find the musicians I'm looking for. And other times you actually do find them. So to speed it up a little bit, you get your band, and then you got to rehearse. Well, everybody has to pay for rehearsal. So right away, you're losing money. Right off the hop, you have to pay to rehearse. Unless you can rehearse in somebody's house, garage, they've got a space. I was fortunate playing in a band with a guy that owned a music school, and we rehearsed in his music school. But it was a long drive for me to get there, so the cost of gas. So you've got rental space and gas, or maybe just gas. It all depends. Then you go and you rehearse. Then you've got to shoot some kind of a promo video. Again, cost. You have to hire people to do this. You got to take promo pictures. Cost. That has never ended. That's always been the way it was for bands, and it's never ended. And it's your dime for all of it. So by the time you actually get to your first gig, because you're not a known band, you're sort of still climbing the ladder, your gig's not going to pay much. You'll be lucky if you make $500 for the whole band. Maybe probably 3 to 500, depending on how many people are in the band. But in my case, it was a 4-piece. So we're making about $400 to $500. So I'm in the hole, the band and myself in the hole, potentially $1,000+ dollars. And that's just to get started. So you got to dig yourself out of that hole, which takes forever. So then 10 gigs down the road, let's say, you've made $100. So technically you're out of the hole, even though you've had to spend money on gas to each one of those venues. Now, when you get to the venue, you got to pay for parking. In Toronto, the parking is ridiculous, which is why I don't do any more gigs in Toronto. Now, I'm going to do a video all about the Toronto scene. Today, I'm just talking in general, gig anywhere. But if you do a gig in Toronto, you're looking at $50 to $60 in parking. If you're making $100, there's your pay practically gone. I used to do gigs where I'd have to drive 2 hours to get to the venue, and maybe I had to pay for parking, maybe I didn't, but I still had to spend $50 in gas. So there's your $100 gone. Now, back in the '80s, I used to make $100 to $150 a gig, which was pretty decent money at the time. Guess what? 2024, nothing's freaking changed. I play good gigs with good bands that are established, and I'd be lucky if I make $200. So there's just no money in it, and I'm just tired of the whole scene. Tired of being broke working as a musician. Now I want you to also watch Brad, because he really explains the Nashville scene and the music scene really, really well, better than me. I'm going to continue on in this series of videos that I've been doing where I'm just talking, because I'm trying to find different ways to branch out on my YouTube channel, and I'm experimenting with different things. So I'm just informing you guys about the whole band situation. So you might get yourself established in the scene, which I was heavily established in the scene of band playing, outperforming, and in some cases touring, but nobody really cares. I'll give you a perfect example. There was a place in London, Ontario that we used to play. I'm not going to name any places. I'm not going to name any people, nothing. But I'm just giving you general. Truth stories, but generalized. There was a place we played at. They told us we were their favorite band. Loved us. Clean Slate was the name of the band that I was playing in. My wife came up with that name, and I was the boss. They loved us. And we were potentially losing money driving there for this gig because we would do 3, sometimes 4 nights at this particular venue. And it was $600 for the band a night. Okay, $600 a night. But we would have to drive back and forth. They would provide no hotel, no accommodations, and it's about an hour and a half from where I live and where the other guys in the band lived, 2 to 3 hours. They lived closer to Toronto, and Toronto to London's probably 2.5 to 3 hours. So we're talking a lot of gas. They didn't carpool because they lived in such different parts of the city that it just didn't make sense. Plus, they were leaving at different times. It didn't work out for them to carpool. So they would drive there and they would have to spend, $60 there and back. So you're getting paid $125 minus 60. They didn't provide any food. There was no food provided, so you buy a meal. That's $25, $30. So by the end of the night, when all said and done, you'd be lucky if you're making $30. Peanuts. Absolute peanuts. Then you do this 4 nights in a row. And you walk away with this $120 in your pocket for 4 days. Plus all the rehearsing, all the work, all the expenses that went into developing, all the money you spent on your instrument. There's just so many factors. The other thing is, you get to the venue, they don't provide a PA. We had to bring our own PA, set up our own PA, set up all our own instruments, which is normal. But the PA system is often provided by venues. I shouldn't say often, sometimes provided. The problem is the PA is crap. It's been abused by so many bands. So now you've got a situation where you're bringing your own PA system. That takes time to set up, sound check. And then, of course, you do your show at the end of the night. If you're doing a 4-nighter, you leave your gear for the most part. But if you're doing a 1-nighter, you're packing up and you're leaving. So there's time, and nobody cares about time or your value. So I asked them for a raise after them telling us you're our favorite band. We love you guys. We want to book you and book you and book you. You had all these bookings. And I said, okay, but we want to double our pay. We want $1,200 so that we can actually make some money out of this gig. We were declined. The guy kept bugging me to play. And I kept saying, we'll play. Double our pay. We will pay. He absolutely refused. The manager called me. The owner called me. They all wanted us. They wanted us so bad. Come play, come play. The crowd is demanding you. Well, the crowd's demanding you. We're demanding to be compensated. You're making thousands of dollars off us each night. Pay us. Pay us $250 a night, each, which still isn't much. 125. Sorry, 275 would have been. Pay us $275 a night. Still not much. Still not much. Even $1,200 for the entire band a night after all the expenses and everything, it still isn't much money. But musicians have been doing this since the beginning of time, practically for free, and I'm sick of it. I'm going to be totally honest. I'm just tired of being taken advantage of as a musician. So no more gigs for me. I'm just done with it. I'm done with the whole scene. And I'm a little bit upset about it because I do love playing, but I'm not playing when there's no respect for my talents. There's no respect for my skills. There's so much that goes into booking a band. There's so much work that goes into prepping the band, and nobody gives a shit. So, sadly, I can't beat the system. Always, always musicians say, I hope it gets better. I hope I get more money. I hope I can survive. There is no more money. The system is broken. The band system is broken, and I'm out. So I'm just letting you guys know. And not exactly the most cheerful video, but it's reality. Now, there is one thing I need to clarify. This video is more for professional musicians who make a living playing music. If you're a weekend warrior, and you got a steady job and you're making an extra 150 or 200 bucks a night playing, then that's great. But for us that try to make a living and pay our mortgages and feed our kids and everything, living off music, dealing with people that just don't care that you're trying to make a living as a musician. The funny thing about this situation that annoys me like crazy is these places want good quality musicians. They want good bands. When a band shows up and they don't make any money because the band is crap, the singer can't sing, the drummer's off time, the guitar player is hitting bad notes, whatever. They want to hire good quality bands. They don't want to pay though. They'll pay the same money to a crappy band as they will one of the top bands around. And when my band was active, very active, we were working all the time and we were big in the scene, we were getting paid the same as everybody else. And that's ridiculous. And that drove me to shut the band down. That's why I shut the band down, because I just got tired of not being paid and not being valued for what this band brought to the table. I had some of the best musicians in the province, in Ontario, playing in this band. And the band was awesome. I'm not just tooting my own horn. That's what we were told night after night after night by all the people that would see us, about how great the band was. So the band was great. The band was working, and the band was doing well. But we were struggling like you would not believe to make ends meet as a band. And you might as well forget about touring when you're only making 300 bucks a night. You might as well forget it. You can't do it. Now, it's sad that I shut the band down because I do miss the guys in the band, but the financial reality is it just didn't work, unfortunately, for us to sustain this. And I still get the odd call or the odd message on Facebook, hey, is your band still active? And the band's been shut down for 5 years now, at least 5 years. And I still get the odd request, but of course I just turn them all down because the band doesn't exist anymore. So I'm going to continue on these videos to update you guys about the scene, the music scene. This is the first of many. See ya.